60 million years ago, the sky went dark. A rock the size of a mountain came screaming out of the cosmos and ended 300 million years of dinosaur dominance in a matter of days. The largest creatures to ever walk the land were gone. The food chains they held together collapsed. The ecosystems they shaped erased, and for a moment, the earth held its breath. But nature doesn't leave a throne empty for long. Deep in the sweltering swamps of what is now South America, something was already moving through the dark water. Something ancient, patient, and growing. Something that didn't need to run, or fly, or evolve spectacular new weapons to claim the top of the food chain. It only needed to get bigger. This is the story of Titanoboa, the largest snake that ever lived, the apex predator of the ancient world, and a creature that still has something extraordinary to tell us about the planet we live on today. In the early 2000s, workers inside the Cerrejón coal mine in northern Colombia kept pulling strange heavy fragments out of the rock. Dark, curved, almost stone-like objects the size of a man's hand. Nobody paid them much attention. They were labeled petrified, branches set aside and forgotten. One of those fragments eventually reached a researcher at the Florida Museum of Natural History. He turned it over once, twice. It wasn't a branch, it was a vertebra, a single vertebra from a spine, and it was the size of a grapefruit. The team went back to Cerrejón immediately. What they found in those ancient rock layers wasn't one bone, it was dozens. The scattered skeletal remains of an animal so large that the researchers spent considerable time simply recalibrating their assumptions before they could begin the sciences. In 2009, they published their findings, and the world met Titanoboa cerrejonensis for the first time. Named after the mine, named after the monster. Let's talk about what this animal actually was, because the numbers require a moment to absorb. Titanoboa reached lengths of 13 to 15 meters, longer than a school bus, longer than a T-Rex from nose to tail. But unlike the lean, tapered profile of a modern anaconda, Titanoboa was built with extraordinary mass. At its widest point, roughly a meter across, its estimated weight exceeded 1,100 kilograms. Over a full metric ton, carried entirely by muscle and scale. How do scientists reconstruct an entire animal from scattered fragments of bone? The answer lies in a well-established biological relationship between vertebra size and total body length in snakes. Measure the bone, apply the formula, and you arrive at a remarkably reliable estimate of the whole. The Cerrejón vertebrae fed that formula numbers it had never encountered before. The environment Titanoboa ruled was a world of warm, shallow rivers and dense flooded forests. The fossil record from the same rock layers includes giant turtles with shells almost 2 meters wide and crocodilians that dwarfed anything alive. Today, these were not creatures Titanoboa avoided. These were prey. The constricting force of an animal this size is estimated to have exceeded 400 pounds of pressure per square inch. Enough to make escape for anything living in that ecosystem essentially impossible. For millions of years, Titanoboa held total dominance over those ancient swamps. No competition, no predators, no ceiling. It wasn't just at the top of the food chain. In many ways, it was the food chain. But here is where the story of Titanoboa becomes something even larger than one animal. Because Titanoboa isn't just a fossil, it's a thermometer, cold-blooded animals. Snakes, lizards, crocodilians are fundamentally governed by the temperature of their environment, their metabolism, their growth rate, and critically, their maximum possible body size are all set by the ambient heat surrounding them. In cooler climates, reptiles stay small. The physics simply don't allow for anything larger. In hotter climates, the ceiling rises. Scientists took this well-documented relationship in living species and ran it in reverse. If Titanoboa sustained a body of 13 to 15 meters, the equatorial temperatures required to power a cold-blooded animal of that scale would have been somewhere between 30 and 34 degrees Celsius, on average year-round. That is 3 to 4 degrees warmer than the modern tropics. The Paleocene epoch, the period immediately following the mass extinction, was not the recovering, cooling world many people imagine. In equatorial regions, it was a pressure cooker, dense, humid, relentlessly hot in a way our planet hasn't been since. And in that heat, life responded the way it always does. It scaled up. The same fossil beds that produced Titanoboa also yielded the largest turtles ever recorded, enormous lungfish, and giant crocodilians. An entire ecosystem amplified by temperature. One snake, found in a coal mine, reconstructed with precision from fragments of bone, tells us exactly how hot the tropics were 60 million years ago. That is the quiet, extraordinary power of paleontology. Which brings us to the question that's been building since the beginning of this video. Could something like Titanoboa ever exist again? The honest answer is not simply and not soon, but the science behind the question is real. The world is warming. The equatorial regions where Titanoboa once thrived are among the areas projected to experience the most significant temperature increases over the coming centuries. And the biological principle that produced Titanoboa, warmer climate, larger reptiles, hasn't changed. It is as true today as it was 60 million years ago. But evolution doesn't respond to decades. It doesn't even respond to centuries. It responds to millions of years of sustained environmental pressure, acting on populations across countless generations. The conditions that built Titanoboa included not just temperature, but an entirely restructured world. Different prey, different ecosystems, different competition, none of which exists today in that form. What scientists do note is this. In a significantly warmer world, the biological ceiling for reptile body size shifts upward. Modern anacondas and reticulated pythons, already the largest snakes alive today, could, across vast stretches of geological time, trend larger. The potential is written into the physics. Whether it ever manifests at the scale of Titanoboa depends on factors no model can fully predict, but the principle is clear. Temperature is not just weather. It is a sculptor. It shapes ecosystems. It sets the upper limits of what living things can become. And Titanoboa is the proof. 60 million years of it, locked inside the rock of a Colombian coal mine. There is something quietly profound about this story. Not just the scale of the animal, though the scale is genuinely staggering, but the fact that it sat in a storage drawer for years, mislabeled, overlooked. A world record, a climate archive, a window into a version of Earth most people have never imagined. Mistaken for a piece of wood, Titanoboa ruled for millions of years, and then faded not in fire, but slowly, as the climate cooled and the swamps contracted and the heat that had made it possible quietly withdrew. It left behind its bones, and its bones left behind a story that stretches from the deep, deep past straight into the questions we are asking right now about the future of this planet. One animal, one mind, one extraordinary piece of evidence about the world we share. If this video made you see the ancient world a little differently, subscribe, and we'll keep going deeper together. See you in the next one.